Imagine it is October 2008. The world is in chaos. Global financial markets are collapsing under the weight of bad bets and broken promises. Banks are failing. Governments are scrambling to print money to save them. It feels like the system we all trusted is falling apart. Trust is a rare commodity. Fear is everywhere. People are losing their homes. People are losing their jobs. People are losing their life savings. The entire structure of modern finance seems to be teetering on the edge of a cliff. Nobody knows what will happen next. In the middle of this widespread panic, a strange message appears on a small, obscure email list. The list is for cryptographers, people who study secret codes. The message is quiet, almost academic. It comes from a person no one has ever heard of, using the name Satoshi Nakamoto. This person proposes a new system, a system for digital money that does not need banks, a system that does not need governments. It is a bold, almost unbelievable idea, especially when everyone is looking to governments for salvation. The message is titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It describes a way for two people to send money directly to each other, anywhere in the world, without a middleman. It is like sending an email, but with value. This system would be powered by a community, not a company. It would be secured by mathematics, not by vaults or guards. The idea sounds like science fiction, but this was not a story. It was a 9-page blueprint for a revolution. A quiet shot heard by only a handful of people around the world. This single document, the Bitcoin white paper, was the beginning of everything. It was a seed planted in the ashes of a financial crisis. It promised to build a new kind of trust, not in people or institutions, but in code and computation. We will explore the ideas that led to its creation and meet the mysterious figure who started it all. We will uncover what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why its origin still shapes our world today. Why should we care about a mysterious email from over a decade ago? Because the story of Bitcoin's creation is not just history, it is a guide to understanding its purpose and power. We cannot truly grasp what Bitcoin is today without knowing why it was built. Bitcoin was born from the 2008 financial crisis. It was a direct response to a system where trust was broken by the institutions designed to protect it. That disappearance was perhaps the greatest gift to the network. It ensured Bitcoin would have no central leader, no CEO, no single point of failure. It could not be pressured, co-opted, or shut down by attacking a founder. The leaderless nature is a direct result of its mysterious origin, making Bitcoin uniquely resilient. Long before Satoshi Nakamoto wrote the Bitcoin white paper, the dream of creating digital money was already alive. For decades, computer scientists and cryptographers had been trying to solve a fundamental puzzle. How could you create a digital version of cash? If digital money was just a file, what would stop someone from spending the same digital dollar over and over again? This is known as the double spending problem. Early attempts at digital payments all relied on a central authority, like a bank or a credit card company, to keep a master ledger. The dream was to create a system that worked like physical cash, directly between two people, but in the digital world, without needing a middleman to approve it. Projects like DigiCash came very close, but it was still centralized, and eventually it was. The dream was powerful, but the solution remained out of reach. The intellectual fire that fueled Bitcoin was lit within a small but influential group called the cypherpunks. Their motto was simple: cypherpunks write code. They believed words weren't enough. They had to build the tools. They saw cryptography as a weapon for defending individual liberty against growing government and corporate power online. The mailing list was a vibrant, contentious forum for radical ideas. Timothy C. May and his Crypto-Anarchist Manifesto predicted cryptography would reshape power and society. This became the ideological bedrock of Bitcoin. They trusted mathematical laws over the laws of men. Building blocks, Hashcash, and B-Money. Satoshi Nakamoto did not invent Bitcoin out of thin air. Adam Back's Hashcash. Purpose: combat email spam. Idea: before sending an email, a computer performs a small amount of computational work. Proof of work was a breakthrough. It created digital scarcity. In 1998, Wei Dai published B-Money, one of the first detailed plans for decentralized digital currency. Dai proposed a community of anonymous pseudonyms maintaining a collective ledger. Use proof of work to create money. These ideas were the raw materials waiting for the right architect. By the mid-2000s, all the necessary ingredients for Bitcoin were on the table. There was the long-held dream of digital cash. There was the cypherpunk ethos, decentralization, privacy, proof of work from Hashcash, distributed ledger concept from B-Money. But no one had combined them to solve double spending without a central authority. The final missing piece was a new recipe for creating and maintaining trust. This is where Satoshi Nakamoto's genius came into play. He proposed bundling transactions into blocks and having network participants, miners, compete to solve a difficult mathematical puzzle, and add the next block to a growing chain. The first miner to solve the puzzle got to add their block to the chain and was rewarded with newly created digital currency. It became more profitable to be honest than to cheat. Collective greed turned into a force for security. The longest chain, the one with the most computational work, became the true history. To rewrite the past, an attacker would have to redo all that work, plus the work of all subsequent blocks, requiring an astronomical amount of computing power. Satoshi had finally solved the puzzle. He had created the engine for decentralized trust that would power Bitcoin. On October 31, 2008, a new voice emerged from the digital wilderness. The subject line was unassuming: Bitcoin P2P eCash paper. But who was Satoshi Nakamoto? To this day, nobody knows for sure. The name was a pseudonym, a mask. The writing was precise, professional. Satoshi avoided personal details and deflected questions about identity. Satoshi seemed to understand that for a truly decentralized system to succeed, it could not have a charismatic leader or a central figurehead. By remaining a ghost in the machine, Satoshi ensured the focus would be on the technology itself. The project had to stand or fall on its own merits. Over the next 2 years, Satoshi Nakamoto would diligently guide the project's infancy. He or she or they answered questions, fixed bugs, and collaborated with the first handful of developers, all while preparing to walk away and let it stand on its own. The document Satoshi attached to that first email was a masterpiece of clarity and conciseness. The white paper was just 9 pages long. In the abstract, Satoshi laid out the core problem and the proposed solution. Any two willing parties could transact directly without a trusted intermediary. The paper walked through each component: timestamp server, proof of work chain, and how nodes would participate. Other earlier proposals were sketches. Satoshi's paper was an architectural plan, not a dream, a concrete plan to build a new kind of money from the ground up. On January 3, 2009, just a couple of months after publishing the white paper, Satoshi Nakamoto brought the Bitcoin network to life. He mined the very first block in the blockchain, a block that is now famously known as the Genesis block, or Block 0. But it also contained something else, something much more significant, a hidden message. It read, "The Times 3/January/2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks." It was a direct and unmistakable reference to the financial crisis that had inspired Bitcoin's creation. This simple headline, forever sealed in the first block of the Bitcoin blockchain, serves as a digital fossil. Yet it was a historic moment. It was the big bang of a new digital universe. And the network began its slow, steady process of adding new blocks, one every 10 minutes, in a rhythm that continues to this day. For the first 9 days of its existence, the Bitcoin network was a lonely place. That all changed on January 12, 2009. This was the date of the very first peer-to-peer Bitcoin transaction. Satoshi sent 10 Bitcoins to another early adopter and cryptographer, Hal Finney. Hal Finney was one of the first people to recognize the potential of Satoshi's idea. He was a respected developer and a veteran of the cypherpunk movement. He downloaded the software, started running a node, and began corresponding with Satoshi. The transaction itself was recorded in block 170 of the blockchain. It is there for anyone to see today, but symbolically, it was monumental. It was the first digital handshake, a transfer of value based purely on cryptographic proof. He famously tweeted, "Running Bitcoin," announcing his participation to the world. This first transaction was the critical step from a single-player experiment to a multiplayer network. After the first transaction, the Bitcoin project began to attract a small but dedicated group of followers. They found their way to a new forum, Bitcoin Talk. They ran the first nodes, strengthening the network. They were the first miners. They scoured Satoshi's code for bugs. People like Hal Finney were not the only contributors. Hal Finney, Gavin Andresen, Marty Malmy. The most famous early commercial transaction happened in May 2010. A programmer named Laszlo Hanyecz paid 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizzas. Satoshi's leadership was collaborative and humble. He built not just software, but a self-sustaining ecosystem. At its heart, Bitcoin is simply a public ledger. This notebook, called the blockchain, contains a complete history of every single Bitcoin transaction that has ever happened. It is not stored in one place. Instead, thousands of copies of this notebook are distributed across a global network of computers. This ledger is not just a simple list. It is organized into blocks. Every 10 minutes or so, a new page is created. Once a page is full and added to the notebook, it is linked to the previous page using a special cryptographic seal. This creates a chain of blocks. It means that to change an entry on an old page, you would have to break the seal not just on that page, but on every single page that came after it. The network would immediately see the discrepancy and reject the fraudulent version. The network polices itself. Now you might be wondering, who gets to add the new pages or blocks to this shared ledger? You can think of it as a great digital race that is constantly happening. For every new block, a complex mathematical puzzle is created. Computers all over the world, known as miners, compete against each other to be the first one to solve this puzzle. The first miner to find the solution gets the right to add the next block. As a reward, they receive a certain amount of newly created Bitcoin. This process, called proof of work, is the security backbone of Bitcoin. It makes creating new blocks very expensive and time-consuming. If a miner were to include a fraudulent transaction in their block, the rest of the network would reject it, and the miner would have wasted all their effort and money for nothing. This great digital race brilliantly turns individual self-interest into collective security. It is a system secured by work, not by trust. So we have a secure public ledger. But how do you actually use it? The answer is public key cryptography. It gives you 2 special keys, public key, private key. Think of your public key like your bank account number. Share it freely with anyone who wants to send you Bitcoin. Your private key is like the secret PIN for your bank account, much more secure. It's a secret you must protect at all costs. When you make a payment, your wallet uses your private key to create a unique digital signature for that transaction. The magic. The network uses your public key to verify the signature is valid without ever seeing your private key. This is how you control your Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your coins. You are your own bank. Freedom and responsibility. We have journeyed back to the edge of a financial abyss in 2008 and witnessed the birth of a radical idea, and watched as Satoshi Nakamoto brilliantly combined them. The result was Bitcoin, a system for creating trust without trusted parties, a ledger secured by computation, and a currency owned by no one. The most important lesson from this story is that Bitcoin's power comes from its leaderless nature. Satoshi's disappearance was the final, crucial step in making the network truly decentralized. One common myth is that it was designed for illegal activities. Its origin shows the intent was to provide a financial alternative for everyone. Another myth is that Satoshi must have been a single, lone genius. It was nurtured by an entire community of early believers. Bitcoin was not created as a speculative investment. It was created as a tool for financial freedom. The story of Bitcoin's creation is not over, and now you are a part of it. The next step is to engage with the idea directly. I encourage you to read Satoshi Nakamoto's original 9-page white paper. Beyond the white paper, a universe of resources awaits. Explore websites, listen to podcasts, read articles, consider setting up your own wallet, sending your first transaction. That moment makes the whole concept click. Join that debate. Talk to your friends and family about it. Share what you have learned. So I ask you, what was the most surprising thing you learned about Bitcoin's origin? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like this essay if you found it useful. And share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Let's build a more informed community together.